You thought it was over. You thought that Kaguya was the beginning, and you thought that Ishiki was the end. You felt that Momoshiki, Kenshiki, and Ishiki, those were the last ones. They couldn't possibly give us more Ōtsutsuki and Boruto, but that's all a lie we've been lulled into. The calm before a cosmic storm, and this is not about Shibai. The Ōtsutsuki aren't just a family, they are indeed an empire. And the clans that we've seen so far, they're really just the vanguard. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where we're going to be taking a look at some overlooked and now confirmed information regarding the Ōtsutsuki. So if you are somebody that has been pounding the pom-poms about those two missing Ōtsutsuki, I've got a major lifeline to throw you. So obviously, we're going to be starting with that tablet and the two missing Ōtsutsuki and the new information that has been uncovered here. So I want you to think back to Sasuke exploring the Ishiki dimension and staring at the 6 symbols on that stone tablet. Rewind that scene back to the much talked about moment where Sasuke traveled back to that dimension and he discovered that cryptic stone tablet that had those 6 circular symbols. 2 of them were damaged. We already know about Kaguya and Ishiki, Momoshiki, and Kenshiki. More recently, we have Shibai, but we don't know whether or not one of those tablets belonged to Shibai. For a long time, we've all speculated that they might have been placeholders, or they might have been alternate versions of Ōtsutsuki. They might have been other Ōtsutsuki that came to Earth and just left, or might have been killed. But now there's concrete information and it is terrifying. But in order to understand, we have to look at what Kaguya's clan was originally called in universe, and we have to go back to information that Ukiyo Kodachi gave us. So in Boruto Academy Novel 3, written by Ukiyo Kodachi, the former Boruto head writer who worked on both the anime and the manga, there was an explosive detail that was dropped. This is somebody that was considered to be Kishimoto's successor when it comes to writing the Naruto franchise narrative before unfortunate things happened to Kodachi. So Kaguya didn't just belong to the Ōtsutsuki, she belonged to a specific branch called the Kyatsume clan, and it doesn't stop there. Momoshiki, while he is an Ōtsutsuki like Kaguya, he's not a part of the same clan as Kaguya. Think of it like how you have branches within the Hyuga clan, a main branch and a side branch, or how the Uzumaki are a different clan, but they are at the same time relatives of the Senju. In fact, when you look at it, Momoshiki is implied to be a leader of his own clan within the Ōtsutsuki. Thanks to my guy Salad Bolts, we have the full translation from this scene, from the story, and it gets very intriguing, which a reminder, Salad Bolts is a very credible translator. So I'm going to read the translation and I'm going to come back to you guys with more because there's a lot to unpack here. So it's here, I quote, "He spoke his response with an icy tone. That wench Kaguya's world is begun to fray in a way we can no longer ignore. The space curvature exceeded 16. Oh, that world, it should have merely been waiting to be harvested." The smaller figure answered without the slightest sign of being shaken, without even turning around. Indeed, the large man stood to his feet and nodded gravely. "If the space's curvature exceeds 10, it must be reported at once to our clan as an anomaly." The power dynamic between the two men, it was clear, but their age relationship may not have been as it seemed. So she neglected to inform us, meaning she either betrayed the Kyatsume clan, or perhaps it was an unbelievable thought, but had she perhaps been taken out by the inferior creatures, end quote. The inferior creatures obviously were Naruto and Sasuke. So this passage changes everything on its head. Some of this was in the anime, the glaring parts were not in the anime. Suddenly the Ōtsutsuki, they're not a singular bloodline, if you will. They are a federation of clans. Wouldn't say they were at war with each other, but if you know the Japanese folklore, which I'm not going to go into detail on it, but if you know the Japanese folklore regarding Kaguya's bamboo story, there's one version of Kaguya's story that talks about her being from the moon and how there were warring factions on the moon that could possibly come back into play. However, I want to talk about why that clan hierarchy makes sense and how this could lead to more Ōtsutsuki coming to Earth. I really feel like this plants the seeds for this, and I'm not overlooking what was said about Ikimoto and Kishimoto about how things have changed when it comes to original plans for Boruto and where we are currently. We'll touch on all that in a moment. So pairs like Kaguya and Ishiki, Momoshiki and Kenshiki, that's a clear hierarchy chart. Shibai is that ascending god. The structure aligns perfectly with what we've already seen. Every Ōtsutsuki so far that we've seen in the story, Toneri being an exception, they moved in pairs, superior and subordinate. Kaguya and Ishiki, Ishiki the superior. Momoshiki and Kenshiki, Momoshiki the superior. One harvests the planet and the other finds a suitable host to give a karma seal, their sacrifice to create the god tree, and then they are reborn. But what decides who is the sacrifice? What decides who is a higher status? It's the clan hierarchy. It's a clan that values power. The inferior is the weaker one. Someone like Shibai, he evolved into a god, but at the same time, he's somebody that he started out just like all the others, getting new power by getting reborn into vessels, eating chakra fruits, and etc., to the point where he no longer needed karma in order to evolve. But now that we know that there's different factions within the clan, there's the possibility that you do have royal bloodlines, a supreme clan above even someone like Kaguya's clan, potentially even Momoshiki's clan, though given people like Kaguya were supposed to report back to what's implied to be Momoshiki's clan, that's where it gets interesting. So that's why we have to consider these godlike figures could be returning if we take this into consideration. Not necessarily to avenge their kin, but instead to reclaim control. Finish what Kaguya and Ishiki failed to do, to erase Earth as a problem once and for all. It would explain why Ishiki was so dead set on telling Code, you must harvest a chakra fruit. Now, in terms of the stone tablet and why this matters and how this can link to more Ōtsutsuki coming, those two missing symbols on the tablet that were damaged is not decoration, they were warnings. It was Ishiki's record, his report back to his people. These symbols represent Ōtsutsuki that have come to Earth, but possibly two more Ōtsutsuki who have not come. They could be the people who sent Ishiki and Kaguya to the planet Earth in the first place. That countdown may have already started. That might be why those tablets are destroyed. The next Ōtsutsuki, they won't come alone. They might be scattered invaders. They'll come when the time permits. The stuff with Jura and the Shinju and possibly even the Kawaki stuff, there could be something else waiting in the shadows, just as what we saw in Naruto. Madoru Uchiha was not the final boss. It ended up being Kaguya. It ended up being Zetsu, who was a bridge to Kaguya. This brings me to Kodachi's influence. It isn't all the way 100% gone. He hasn't contributed to the manga story since 2019. So don't get that twisted. But I do want to kind of bring some things up. So some of you guys might argue, hey, Kodachi's gone. He's no longer writing the manga. So what do we care about something that he wrote previously that isn't necessarily going to be used now? And here's what I would say to kind of pump the brakes on. According to Ikimoto himself, and according to Kishimoto, when Boruto's manga started, there was a overall outline that was done, and what we have now is a collaborative process, and this has not changed. Even when Kodachi was writer, you would have the editor from Shueisha assigned to Boruto, Kishimoto, Ikimoto, and Kodachi. They would all meet twice a month. They would go over the story and they would talk about changes and etc. Even now with Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, it's a collaborative effort. Each month, Ikimoto drafts the chapter, he sends it to Kishimoto, they have their meeting, they get feedback, and then they debate changes. One famous change being Kishimoto wanted Code to die. Ikimoto fought him on it. Code still lives for reasons not yet disclosed because Code's fodder. But even though things have deviated from that original outline, that doesn't mean all ideas were thrown out. And you've heard me talk about this before. When you look at the extra information that is added into the physical copies of the Boruto manga, the Borokar files basically, which is low-key similar to what you have on the Naruto official website in the form of the databases, but those pages, I would argue, in the physical copies of the Boruto manga are more detailed. They're basically mini data books themselves with a lot of world building information. It's part of why I'm such an advocate of purchase the manga, because the physical copies of the manga, especially in part 1, contain a lot of goodies that you don't get from just reading on the Shonen Jump app. Some of the entries that he put in the manga to stay on topic, they ended up being the source material that ended up giving us the Kara actuation arc, stuff like Kara being in other countries, being behind Ninja Tech in other countries, things of that nature. That's from the database that is in the Boruto Kara files. There was stuff that was used later on in Boruto's manga that you can find in the Boruto Kara files. Even after Kodachi left, some of that stuff still ended up getting used by Ikimoto, albeit with very clear changes. Kodachi provided a lot of world building in there that was approved by Kishimoto at the time to be placed into the manga. And it is worth noting, out of all those light novels that were written by the various people, Kodachi was the one that was picked by Kishimoto to work on the Boruto movie script with him. He had the keys to the kingdom alongside Ikimoto before he got into it with anime staff. Did a video about that years ago that I'll leave in the description box for those of you guys who want more information about that. But I say that to say this: key concepts like the Karma, the Ten Tails, the Ōtsutsuki infrastructure, those were things that Kodachi played a role in. And many of them are still core plot threads. The Kyatsume clan, that might not have been scrapped. It might just be waiting for its inevitable moment that we see it referenced. Everyone's thinking about the Boruto versus Kawaki battle. Everyone's thinking about how to take down Jura, Momoshiki hiding from within. Everything is honestly falling into place. The divine tree, it has new life. It's in the form of Jura, somebody who also wants to harvest a chakra fruit. Do you think Ōtsutsuki would be fine with a tree wanting to consume the chakra fruit? Because Jura has a bunch of other Shinju that can be used to harvest a chakra fruit. It doesn't necessarily have to be him. That's why he said, I wonder what would happen if I ate it. Code is also active. He wants the chakra fruit. He's following Ishiki's will, as Ishiki called it, following my will. I cannot let the Ōtsutsuki's will be perished. Extinguished was the word that Ishiki used. You have that Ten Tails mutating into new life forms. You have Boruto branded by Momoshiki, someone who we now know is the leader of another part of the clan. You have reference to an Ōtsutsuki god in Shibai. Just like with the Sage of Six Paths, eventually we will meet that character. There isn't a question if there are more Ōtsutsuki coming. It might be a question of how many more are there. This has evolved into the seeds being planted for a conflict for an hierarchy of destruction. And basically alien clans see our planet as being nothing more than soil to be fed to trees. The Ōtsutsuki, they're coming, and they're not coming to negotiate. Let me know how you guys feel about this extra information. Do you think that Ikimoto is keeping some of the stuff that Kodachi came up with, or do you think that Ikimoto is going to make a clean break from it? Let me know down in the comment section below, and in the meantime, click here to check out more videos from Naruto Explained.